Hey, what are you at, guys? My name is Troy.
And I'm Mike.
Welcome back to Facility D20. This is going to be another encounter video. This time we're going to discuss a little town that we built, a dock town or a lake town, what have you, and talk about what we did there, which was a pretty fun little fishing competition encounter.
Yeah, we rolled up into town after some heated discussions on a side boat boarding confrontation, but we roll up into this new town and we'll get into what we did.
Yep, and we're going to have another encounter video coming out soon, a battle for a kraken, and in that one we're going to fill you in on why we're actually at this town.
Yeah.
This video we're going to concentrate on the town itself. So the table itself, the build was done with a combination of a few things. There were some homemade scratch-built docks that I made. I'll link the video so you guys can check out if you want to make those docks yourself.
They turned out really nice.
Yeah, I was super happy with them. There's also some foreground buildings, some papercraft cardboard buildings, some dwarven forged stuff, and a whole bunch of random scatter terrain that we used to create this table. So I'm going to take you in now and just show you a video of how this table looked once it was done. Here we go. This is the setup. You can see these are the docks that I built, and all these ships are 3D printed ships from printablescenery.com. I'll link them below. There's a build video of an undead pirate ship if you want to see how to build one of these ships. Here you can see some terrain. I got some 3D printed dungeon tiles with a home crafted roof. This flat building is a foreground studios building. This tall building is a foreground studios building sitting on some dwarven forged tiles. This red one is a papercraft building, and this little red one here is another foreground studios. You can see these walkways are actually fences from foreground that I just got turned upside down, and a lot of terrain crate scatter terrain here. And I heard the boys coming, so I whipped out my cell phone and I recorded their reaction after I knew they watched the dock video on my channel.
How's it going, sir?
It's going pretty good.
Clearly, everything you built wasn't for our session.
What?
Yeah. I don't know who you're trying to tell that for.
And especially when he even said right in the video, he's like, I'm building this for a floating compound, a village or something. I was like,
Yeah, it's definitely not Tiny
but
Town.
not Tiny Town. I'm not the village.
You would know them.
Okay, so the town itself was meant to be like a really friendly town, so that's what I tried to bring across to the players. I wanted all the NPCs to be happy-go-lucky, friendly people, to really like the main NPC, Greyhawk, which brought you here.
That worked both for you and against you, because when we got into town, we were very angry with Greyhawk, and we didn't quite trust him. So everyone was being super happy and super trusting. We're like, something's going on here. We don't trust these happy-go-lucky people. Ain't nobody this happy.
No, I know. And I was trying to like really make it so that they really love this guy, and to kind of maybe change your mind on how you felt about him, because leading up to now you're like, oh, I don't know about this guy, but because the town was so like he's the best, and you couldn't really uncover any like motives that were evil or malintent, so
Other than the party just genuinely being paranoid.
yeah, exactly. So it was a pretty friendly town. I had some pretty cool stuff in there. There was a bar called the Singing Gypsy where you spent a lot of your time. There was a blacksmith shop, a small magic shop, an inn, and a market square. And I used a online random generator to fill out all of these buildings. I'll link that in the description. I think it was called Don John's generator.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
I used that one before.
Yeah, it's an awesome tool. So as a DM, you guys go on there, make a bunch of taverns, make a bunch of bars, a bunch of music shops, a bunch of inns, and just have them in your DM binder ready to roll.
Yeah,
so whenever you need them.
When they roll into a new town unexpected on you, you just flip through your binder and, oh, look at this, the whole town's fleshed out.
Yeah, exactly. It's awesome, an awesome tool to have in your binder. I'll definitely link that in the description. So you guys spent most of the time you were there, of course.
Yeah, at a bar.
At a bar.
The first thing we did as soon as we seen a bar there, it's like, oh, well, it's time to peddle some more of our ale. So we managed to turn this adventure into quite a profitable one.
Yes, you did.
We ended up, them being an isolated town, we managed to drive the price of our ale up and sell quite a bit of it, actually.
You did, yeah. And the best part was, of course, as per I'm going to go against the stereotype here and make the bartender a dwarf again, because it's always fun. So the best thing was I named him Backy. And one of the party's members' name was Bakai, and he was distraught about this.
Yes, it's like, no, I'm Bakai.
So that was a lot of fun. So you want to mess with your players, just give it an NPC with the same or similar name and watch them get mad. So they spent a lot of time there. It was cool because the bard and the warlock got to put on some performances on stage.
Yeah.
And you brought in a lot of the locals.
Yeah, we tried to butter them up as they were trying to butter us up, because we weren't sure if we were going to have to try to fight Greyhawk or take over this town or sink the whole town, because that was on the table too.
Yep, it was. And there at the bar, they found a big mantle of a fishing trophy of what I call a starfin tuna, which is basically like an elongated X with a rounded nose and a dorsal fin and a tail fin of this local fish that every year there's a fishing competition, and the winners' names are up on this plaque at the bar. So of course, wins the fishing competition the next day. So
we all sign up to go for this fishing competition. I was pretty excited about this myself, being a druid. I was just like, okay, I'm going to be able to commune with nature, I'm going to be able to do all this stuff, and I'm going to win this thing because I have the best survival out of everybody in the party. So the next day comes after a bit of philandering at the bar and
some not safe for work shenanigans.
Yeah. We managed to wake up later than expected, being hungover, and we gather up all of the crew, and we're like, okay, we're winning this. And then it quickly became a solo sport. It started off as a team venture, but then everyone kind of went off on their own and did it.
Everybody was trying to win that competition.
After Bakai tried to throw he was still drunk from the night before.
He was still drunk, so I had him roll. He failed his con save, and he had a condition, of course, and everything he was doing, ability checks were at disadvantage.
He didn't really have a good outcome with his rolls, so he said instead of pursuing this, he's going to start finding the local champions and distract them and give us a leg up in the competition.
He did, yep.
So he ended up finding the defending champion, and they had this big award-winning tuna out in on their secret spot in the dock that he managed to find, to which he then, through magical means, took it and threw the fish back in the sea and then jettisoned it out.
Yeah, I think he used his imp, and he cast it fly or levitate or something, and then shoved the fish back into the water, and it's just jettisoned it off and completely ruined their chances. So that was kind of fun. So basically what I did in the town, I had marked it on the map, different locations along the dock with higher or lower DCs. And then, of course, I asked the players, okay, where do you want to fish on the dock? So they all kind of picked their places. And I had predetermined who was going to win the fishing competition. It was the previous champion who Bakai messed with. So I literally just wrote down, she has a 25 DC to beat her fish. Basically, you had to get a 25. So depending on which part of the dock that you selected, depending on what the DC was there, a plus or minus. And then depending on what you guys did, you were going to increase or decrease that DC. So, for example, if you chummed the water, I was going to decrease it. Or if you're really drunk like Bakai, I was going to increase it. So essentially what I did was I had first place, second place, third place, fourth place, fifth place, all at different DCs. So essentially, depending on what you rolled, was going to place you in the tournament.
Yeah.
And to beat the top place, of course, you had to get hard 25. She was at 25. So then when everybody got ready, we just went through the competition and had them do whatever they were going to do to try to catch the fish there.
Yeah.
So, for example, our monk, who was used to spearfishing, didn't really know how to fish with a rod and a reel, and I made them use rods and reels because I didn't want them just polymorphing into a whatever and
going in and I got the biggest one. Oops. So he rolled really low, and then role played it off as he was used to spearfishing and was complaining that they were using the wrong side of the fishing apparatus.
I think he eventually just threw the rod at the tuna.
Yeah.
So yeah, he done really poorly, and then of course you being the druid.
Yeah, so I sat down, I communed with nature, I put everything, I got the bard to inspire me, and I sat down and I got something huge. I got a 30, almost a 30 roll. I think it was 28 something.
It was high, yeah.
So I rolled really well, and I purposely I asked the DM where the worst looking spot was, not knowing that there was DCs anywhere.
Yeah.
I went, because I wanted it to be like, oh, this druid doesn't know what he's doing, and then haul out the biggest fish kind of thing. So I ended up hauling out like a 28 or something, so it rolled super, super high. And I was like, oh yeah, I got this in the bag. Until the bard decided, you know what? Who needs to be able to fish really well when you have a lot of magic?
A lot of magic.
So through the casting of, I think it was 4 or 5...
4 or 5 spells.
Yeah, he managed to pull out a 32 on his survival check, which was absolutely nuts.
Huge. And he was like, so it was really funny that he eventually won the competition, had his name up on the mantle.
First time he's ever gone fishing in his life.
Yeah, and the best part was where he picked such a shitty spot. One of the NPCs that tags along, Angus, the barbarian dwarf, he didn't know what he was doing, so he was just fishing in the shitty spot. But because you lured all the fish to the shitty spot, he ended up doing really good too in the competition.
Yeah.
So at the end of it, we had a weigh-in, and I was like, okay, maybe some shenanigans are going to go down here because they're going to try to mess with the weigh-in or whatever. And of course, they did.
Yeah.
I think Bakar, the warlock, where he done so shitty, and he had such a small starfin tuna, but he used like a cantrip or his imp or something to manipulate the scales.
He used his imp and went invisible and went and started tugging on the fish, trying to make it weigh more. But the imp's only like 5 pounds.
So it didn't really help him a lot. So eventually now, because all these fish and all these people were here, we had Perytons get drawn to this display of food, essentially. So I had to, as the final part to this competition, we had the Perytons come in and attack all in different spots of the dock. So that way I had all these people like not people, but you guys had to separate as a group and kind of fight individually, and we got to utilize a lot of the map this way. So and I mean, Perytons are pretty easy for you guys at this level, but it was just wanted to get some.
It was a really good. It was a really good blow off steam fight too, from all the frustrations we've had in the last things not going our way in the last couple of adventures, and being misled, and not by the DM, but by how our characters were just pretty much. We've been ran around a few times because we're not really that smart, but it was nice to blow off steam, and I was like, this challenge rating 2 monster comes down. I'm like, 5th level smite. Bang!
Yeah, just done.
Yeah. And then the bard goes over to the barbarian who's on the other side of the... other side of the dock, and he's trying to get to the Perytons on the far side, so he just grabs him by the seat of the pants, casts fly, and hucks him up over the house.
Yeah, he just flies over the house and just with his axe coming down that movie with Matthew McConaughey. Rain of Fire. Just laying right into one of these guys. That was a lot of fun. So that was pretty much it for this town. And fun little tidbit: the name, we called the town Tawny Town because it was a tawny town. And where that came from, as I was building it, my son came out and was like, "Oh, what are you making, a Tawny Town?" And I'm like, "It's called Tawny Town now."
I didn't know that.
Yeah, that's where the name came from. So guys, that was it. The next video we're going to talk about the Kraken and Tawny Town. So you want to stick around for that, hit like, hit subscribe, and let us know if you guys ever ran anything like a fishing competition or something like that. Love to hear it in the comments.
Yeah, anything interesting you guys have done outside the norm of combat.